Hello, everybody. Now, this story is going to be the story of Little Miss Helpful, which feels like a really good thing, doesn't it? We like people who are helpful, but maybe sometimes you can be too helpful. Shall we see what happens? There's another character, actually, another one with really smart shoes. So, Little Miss Helpful, I was reading just now, I was reading Mr. Chatterbox, and he was sort of a pinkish colour. Little Miss Helpful is definitely more purple. She's probably what we would call plum coloured, because if you ever see a plum, it's a really nice, juicy purpley colour. And she's got yellowish sort of hair, and like a lot of the Little Miss characters, she's got a little round nose. What colour would that be? That is yellow. But do any of you know what colour Little Miss Helpful's shoes are? So again, Mr. Chatterbox had really smart blue and white shoes. And Little Miss Helpful has green and white shoes. Very similar, really. So there she is. That's a plum colour, isn't it? With a yellowish sort of hair and a big red yellow nose and green and white shoes. So shall we see what Little Miss Helpful gets up to and whether she is really helpful? Let's find out. Little Miss Helpful was one of those people who love to help other people, but who end up helping nobody. Do you know what I mean? Well, shall we find out? I mean, for instance, like the time when one of Mr. Tall's shoelaces came undone. And there you can see Mr. Tall, who's got legs right way up to the sun. Look how tall he is. So, what did Little Miss Helpful do? If you're as tall as Mr. Tall, tying your shoelaces isn't the easiest thing in the world, as you can imagine. But let me help, cried Little Miss Helpful, rushing up. Oh dear. But maybe she's not very good at tying shoelaces, because do you know what she did? She managed to tie the two shoes together. She tied Mr. Tall's shoelaces together. And of course, as soon as he went to step forward, the shoelaces tripped him up and he fell over. And if you're as tall as Mr. Tall, falling over hurts. Ouch, he said, banging his head. Oh, let me help, cried Little Miss Helpful, and she rushed off to get some sticking plaster and rushed back and stuck it on Mr. Tall. Only she didn't stick it on the bump. She stuck it on his mouth, look. So how could he talk now? He said. He was trying to say, take it off, but that's rather difficult to do with a sticking plaster across your mouth. Little Miss Helpful looked at him with concern. Let me help, she cried, and ripped the sticking plaster off his mouth. Ow! He cried. That hurt. And there he is, look. Would you like me to get some cream for your sore mouth? She asked anxiously. No, he groaned. Go away. So now do you know what I mean about how some people, when they're trying to be helpful, actually they don't help anybody at all. So, last year, in April, I think it was, Mr. Happy woke up and feeling not very well. The doctor had to be called, and he came to Mr. Happy's house. And there it is, which is on a hill by the lake. Sounds very nice, doesn't it? Well, you can see the lake in the background. Look, that's all the blue is where the lake is, I think. Oh dear, said the doctor when he saw Mr. Happy. Can you see those spots? Measles. He's got measles. Mr. Happy's face fell. Now, said the doctor, you're to stay tucked up nice and warm in bed and get lots of rest and take this medicine not once, not twice, 3 times a day. And off he went, and Mr. Happy settled down to sleep. Now that could be the end of the story, but I don't think it's going to be, do you? I think we know what's going to happen. He'd just fallen asleep when there was a loud knock at his front door. Oh dear, groaned Mr. Happy. and staggered off to open it. And you can guess who it was, can't you? "I've come to help," she cried. But nothing," cried Miss Helper. "Now, off to bed with you while I get on with everything." And she looked around. "This place needs a good clean," she said. Mr. Happy had just dropped off to sleep again when Miss Helpful poked her head round his bedroom door. "Have you got a scrubbing brush?" she asked. Poor Mr. Happy had to get up to go and find it to show where it was, and then he went back to bed to try and go to sleep. Little Miss Helpful stepped back to admire the kitchen floor she had scrubbed. It was all nice and clean, but she trod on the soap. Soap is slippery. She fell head over heels and she got her head stuck in the bucket and then crashed around the kitchen, knocking over all the pots and pans. Can you imagine the noise she made? Because they all fell on the floor in a clatter. And then, oh no, it gets worse. Because she couldn't see where she was going, little Miss Helpful stepped in one of the saucepans and got it stuck to her foot. And because she had to hop, she fell over against the fridge door, which flew open and everything inside fell out. Look at that. All over little Miss Helpful. What a mess she's made. Poor old Mr. Happy, he hasn't had a chance to sleep. Every time he gets to sleep, she makes noises, she wakes him up, he has to do things, and now she's ruined his kitchen and made things far worse than they were before. Poor Mr. Happy awoke with a jump at the terrible commotion. He groaned, got out of bed, went to the kitchen and opened the door. He could not believe his eyes. There, in the middle of a pile of broken eggs and a scrubbing brush and rolling saucepans and a little water and spilled milk and squash butter and bent saucepan lids and a piece of soap, sat little Miss Helpful with a bucket on her head and a saucepan on her foot. "Help! Help!" came a voice from inside the bucket. Mr. Happy. Oh no, you know this is going to end up in disaster, don't you? Mr. Happy seized the bucket and he pulled as hard as ever he could. Look there, you can see. He pulled and he pulled and he pulled, and then pop! The bucket came off the top of little Miss Helpful's head like a cork out of a bottle. Mr. Happy shot away like a cork from a bottle. Where do you think he's going? Because look, he's flown out of the door. Whoosh! He shot across the garden. He went straight over the garden hedge. He rolled down the hilly field behind his garden, faster and faster, and of course, splash! He finished up in the lake with the bucket in his hand. And just when he thought he couldn't get things any worse, a little figure with a saucepan on one foot came half running, half hopping down the hill out of Mr. Happy's house. "Let me help," she cried. I should think that's the last thing that Mr. Happy wanted, is it? So I don't know what message that gives you. Is it a good thing to be helpful? Of course it is. Everybody likes people who are helpful. But before you are helpful, maybe you should always check that people want some help first. Can I help? Not let me help and then get on and help. Maybe it's just, can I help? Is there something I can do that will be helpful? That's a very different sort of thing, isn't it? So that's a good little story. I like that. Poor little Miss Helpful. She was just trying to do her best. I hope you enjoy that. I shall be back very soon with another one. Be happy and talk soon. Bye.